welcome to movie Battleground. Yeah, they've decided to pull me out of my cave because I only come out every like 3 months to play somebody. But I'm here to judge, which is fun. I'm so excited. I have two great fighters. I think they're debuting in Battleground. Is that correct?
That's
Let's say
correct.
that's correct. Boom. So yeah, but I can't do this alone. I got three judges. I got two judges. I'm one. But we got Sean. Sean, how are you doing tonight? Are you excited for the match?
Yeah, I'm very excited. This is actually my first time judging, so I am excited to actually be able to be a part of this and see what happens with this matchup.
All right, just rule for judging. If you don't know, bullshit. And Matt, you've been judging a few matches. I've actually had you judge one of mine. How are you feeling about this match? Are you excited?
I am. Getting a look at these questions, these are going to be some heated debates. They're some pretty deep cuts, so I'm excited to see where these rookies go.
Yes, I have some definite opinion on these, but we'll see how they pick. First, I'm going to go to Andrew Barr. Andrew, you're kind of like on the rise in this community. You're hosting some matches out there. You've been on some jukebox. How do you feel about your debate skills, and how do you feel about playing Ruben today?
I'm very interested to face Ruben. I don't know his fighting style, which makes this a little bit more challenging than someone I could do my research on, which I like. I like a challenge. And since this is my first debate, I don't expect to be perfect, but I expect to win.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, you got to be confident when you're going in. I'm going to go to Ruben next. Ruben, I've been on one of your calls before. You're still new to this community. Fantastic in the realm of geek, actually, but this is actually general movies. So, how are you feeling going to play Andrew, and how do you like your chances?
Yeah, obviously I'm nervous as hell. I'm not gonna lie. This is not my strong suit at all. Debating's not my strong suit, and regular movie stuff not my strong suit. But you know what? I like a challenge. I like being an underdog. So if I have to climb a hill to try to win a match, then so be it. I'll give it a shot, and hopefully I can shock some people and surprise some people in today's match. We'll see what happens.
That might be a perfect cocktail of not knowing anything and doing a crazy Makuga style to win. I like the options. But what we're gonna do, guys, there is three main round questions followed by speed rounds if it's still undecided at that point. What you're gonna have is 90 seconds for your opening, a 5-minute free-form debate. Again, be respectful, give each other tit for tat. Don't be a douche and take all the time. I will call you out on it. And then a 60-second closing. You do have 1 minute extension that you can add to your opening or your closing, but you have to announce that before you start speaking. I am not going to allow you to just add it because you ran out of time. Okay? Everybody understand the rules as presented? Okay. So the first question, again, I don't know options, so this is actually going to be a lot of fun for me. We're going to go worst animated film. Since you guys don't have either records, I don't know how either one of you are ranked. I'm going to start with Andrew, so you're going to open this one, so you will close this question, and then it will switch back and forth. So, Andrew, 90 seconds when you start speaking, tell me what the worst animated film is.
The worst animated film is a film that not only is terrible in its animation, but also terrible in its story. And I cannot think of a animated film that fits this better than the 2012, I believe it was, atrocity called Food Fight. This movie not only looks like complete garbage, but the story is terrible. It is ripping off Casablanca at some points for no gosh darn reason. Characters' dialogues are atrocious, and I will have more to say in the main fight. And I concede my time.
Yes, interesting choice, conceding your time. That's totally fine. I think this is the one with that brand tuna fish character on the front cover. I didn't realize that was even released anywhere. But interesting choice. And Ruben, you're gonna have 90 seconds when you start speaking. You tell me what the worst animated film is.
Okay, so when I think of the worst animated film, I'm trying to look at it as a whole, because animated films is something that not only adults can fall in love with, kids can fall in love with, different types of people can fall in love with. I'm looking for something that maybe didn't really grab too much of an audience at all. And the first thing that comes to mind is Sausage Party. It's a movie that had all-star potential. Some of the funniest actors out there alive, to be honest, that completely fell short. Great cast, and as soon as they get out there, whenever they try to capitalize on a story, totally suck. They thought they had a good concept. It was horrible. And it's with all these different elements added to it that there's no type of person out there that I feel like would actually enjoy a movie like this. It actually made people feel uncomfortable and walking out of the theater. And I'm going to stop because I have a lot to say otherwise, but we'll leave it at that.
Fantastic. Sausage Party versus Food Fight. Both involving food. Which one's worst? You're going to tell me that. 5 minutes when you first start speaking.
Okay, sausage.
Go ahead.
No, I insist.
All right, so here's my issue with your movie. So your movie is actually more directed towards kids in the first place. So you may not like a movie like this. Like I can totally see kids falling in love with just the animation a bit because I see it as like a similar to like kind of like a like a kid like type of art. And whenever a kid sits down and watches a movie like that, they might be entertained. They might actually like a movie like that. Whereas Sausage Party, adults were walking out of the movie because how uncomfortable it made them feel. It was a movie that actually disgusted the audience to be a part of. There was a 5-minute orgy scene in the movie that literally people walked out. It's about food in a grocery store. Or it's the most dumbest movie I've ever seen. And the worst part about it is that it had all-star cast to kind of throw things down the drain. Like they had great people and still flopped.
I think your movie's more disappointing than it is necessarily bad. People actually like this movie. It has a positive rating on Rotten Tomatoes. It's sitting in somewhere like the 70s, like 76 or something like that. You think kids are going to like Food Fight? The animation in that is so horrifying that will give kids nightmares. There is one particular human character that is just insanely terrifying in how terrible the design and the look is. Kids are going to watch part of this movie and be like, "Mom, turn it off, please."
See, on that same note, it doesn't actually make complete sense. You bring up the Rotten Tomatoes. Obviously, kids aren't going to be going out to see Sausage Party. And when kids when you talk about Food Fight, do you really see kids putting grades on Rotten Tomatoes? Food Fight is a movie that is actually made for kids. Kids can probably sit and actually be okay. It's a cartoon. They can sit and enjoy a movie. Sausage Party, it's rated R. It's a sex orgy. It's horrible.
So obviously not made for kids.
Not land. It was not made for kids, but even the adults were walking out. That's how bad it is that it was directed towards adults and it still flopped for adults. It was a horrible movie that was made for a specific type of people. And it still did not land in any shape, way, or form. It was god-awful movie, and I think it was a travesty to watch. Like I actually was like murdering myself throughout the movie. I could not sit there. I'm like, what the fuck were these people thinking when watching a movie like this?
But the story's not a terrible idea, and it's not like it's the worst movie I've ever seen. Sausage Party is a fine movie.
How's it not a terrible idea? How's it not a terrible idea?
It's hilarious, that one scene where all of the food discovers that their whole world that they've been told is a lie. What an actually really interesting idea. This whole world that you've been built up, this ideal village, it's all a lie and a sham.
High people writing a script.
Yeah, high people writing a script doesn't always necessarily mean it's a bad movie.
No, and I completely agree.
Pineapple Express for one is a great movie.
Exactly, it's a great movie. But here's the thing: the concept sucked, the story sucked, the actual.
You want to talk about awful? You want to talk about awful stories? Look at Food Fight. That movie is so convoluted, and once again. The kids thing, there are sexual undertones throughout this movie that also make no sense and are incredibly creepy. There's one line, it was, it warms my heart the way you love my raisins. A, ew, okay, B, what the fuck does that mean?
All right, for the record though, so many kids, some of the best kids Disney like films out there make some of the most like actual undertone jokes like that.
This is not undertone. She is in a sexy schoolgirl outfit at one point, and it's disgusting.
You just said it was undertone. You said it. You said to yourself it was. I'm just saying,
but
this movie is made for kids. Kids can sit down and watch it. I feel like just because of the way the characters are, what the characters are doing.
Because something's made for kids doesn't mean that it can still be something that
it has an audience.
May I please?
Good.
Sausage Party still has something that is very deep and very kind of disturbing. The idea that this whole world that you've been told, it's a lie and it's dangerous. Also, when it comes to the acting is not bad. Some moments are really, really funny. Nothing is funny in Food Fight. No one's trying. You got Charlie
Name
Sheen,
one
Wayne
funny
Brady,
moment
Hilary
in that
Duff,
movie.
Ava Longoria. No one's trying.
Okay, but that's my point right there. We have an all-star cast with Sausage Party, and still they could not land. Maybe they land one fucking joke throughout the entire film. Maybe one joke throughout the entire movie. But with some of the best comedies out there, you're talking about the biggest comedians to actually be on Hollywood. Where in that movie, Bill Hader, Seth Rogen, like different wig.
Time. Okay. So it's going to be a 60-second close. We're going to start with Ruben. So, Ruben, you're going to get your 60 seconds as soon as you start talking. Whenever you're ready.
As I said in my opening statement, like what I'm trying to identify as what the worst animated movie is something that actually doesn't have any people really gravitating towards. Something like Food Fight is something that actually I feel like a group of kids can actually enjoy the movie. Multiple kids, especially like my little brother would probably sit down and watch Food Fight. I've never heard of it, obviously, because it wasn't theatrically released all worldwide. However, I will say that this is a movie that I can see my little brother sitting there and watching and enjoying. Something like Sausage Party is directed towards adults, and adults cannot stand behind it. You might find like 2 or 3 adults total out of every single movie theater showing that they showed of this movie that might have maybe enjoyed it. I saw so many people walking out of this movie because it's disgusting. It is horrible. The jokes did not land. And with some of the best talent out there, the movie still flopped. They spent all this money in to make this movie, and it still flopped. And that's horrible. That is a travesty, in my opinion. If you're gonna have talent like that.
All right. And Andrew, 60 seconds when you start speaking.
Just because it's an animated movie doesn't mean that kids are going to watch it. Anomalisa is technically an animated movie, and that's not meant for kids. You're saying that it's a flop? Food Fight's a much bigger flop if you look at the numbers. The script in Food Fight is awful. The animation itself, the animation in Sausage Party is not bad animation. The opening number, that the whole Gods song at the beginning, is actually really shot really well. You can't tell what some of the characters are in Food Fight. The animation is atrocity. They're moving like this throughout the entire movie. That looks awful. Why would you release an animated movie like this? The script is awful. It's convoluted. It's kind of racist in some parts, and the acting is just so bad. Like, no one cares. No one's trying. Not even the animators. Not even the company that released it. And I yield the rest of my time.
Interesting strategy. See how it pays off. I normally bounce around, but I'll just go first on this one. It was very close. I think what we'll have to do figuring out is time-wise. You guys got to work on a better balance because I think Ruben controlled most of the talking. But again, that's my fault as a main judge. But I have to give my point to Andrew, and the reason why I'm giving it to Andrew is because there was more shots against why Sausage Party was good and why Food Fight is bad. I think it came down to not being able to see the film or maybe not watching it or not knowing it, saying that it's just for kids and kids would like it. Well, adults could like your film, and I think Andrew counteracted that pretty well. So my first point will have to go to Andrew, but the 3 judges, we'll go to Matt next. Matt, where are you sitting on this and why?
I have to agree. My point's going to go to Andrew because, for one, I know a lot of people that really enjoyed Sausage Party. When I was looking over the answers and heard Food Fight, I'd never even heard of it. And I'm a huge movie buff, so I had to go look it up. And it just, like Andrew was saying, he had more shots at why Sausage Party is actually a decent movie compared to Food Fight. And I just think Ruben didn't retaliate enough on why Food Fight is worse than Sausage Party.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. All right, so Andrew is in the lead 1-0. I guess not a fan of Lavish's testicles that are shown in Sausage Party. I agree, the movie is terrible, and I had to sit through it. It was rough. But guess what?
It's not a good movie.
Not at all. So the second one is WB announced that the Flash film will start production after Fantastic Beasts 3. What storyline should they adapt? Guessing you guys understand the question a little bit more than it's written to me. So we're going to start with Ruben. So you will open. You will also close this question. 90 seconds whenever you start speaking.
Okay, so whenever I'm thinking of a storyline that they should adapt, I'm thinking of something that's going to open more doors for WB and pretty much the whole DCEU type of concept. And the first thing that comes to mind is Flashpoint. Flashpoint opens so many doors. It's not just one-dimensional. You're talking about it opens so many different types of characters, so many different versions of characters, so many different worlds, so many different stories just based off of one movie. And I think it's probably the best choice to make it. I think it's an obvious choice. This was the first answer I thought of just because of how many doors it opens going forward. I'm just going to go ahead and keep it short, leave it at that. I can save the rest of my time.
All right, conceding the time. You guys are making this match very easy. Andrew, 90 seconds whenever you start speaking.
One of my favorite villains in the entire DC universe is one that we haven't seen yet come to live action. And we've seen him a couple times in the animated universe, in the TV series of Justice League and in some of the movies. And with Rise of the Planet of the Apes and the entire Planet of the Apes trilogy recently, I believe that it is time and it is possible to finally bring Gorilla Grodd into the universe. And that's why I'm picking Menace of the Super Gorilla. This is the storyline of Flash that actually introduced Gorilla Grodd. For those of you who don't know, Gorilla Grodd is this giant gorilla that got telepathic powers after an asteroid hit, and it becomes the leader of an entire hidden country or city, something like that, in Africa. And Gorilla Grodd wants to take over the world. Gorilla Grodd is one of the Flash's biggest villains, and this is a good way to introduce a couple of other ideas that you can lead into multiple plot lines that weave into the world of the DC. And I will end my time there and make the rest of my argument later.
Again, guys, I will kind of pause the match if like filibustering starts happening. So kind of best way I describe it is 30 seconds, let it swing, get you guys a little point, get quick and get back out. Okay. Don't take as much time because I will pause the match. Okay. So whoever wants to start speaking, go ahead.
Flashpoint has way too many characters in that storyline for DC and WB to adapt that now. Justice League was already kind of a mess because of how many things were going on. Imagine with all of the characters in the Flashpoint story, that is going to be a super mess that right now the DC cannot handle because Warner Brothers does not have a solid through line for what they want their universe to do. And this is just going to create a Frankenstein's monster.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and disagree with you right there on a couple points. First, let me talk about your opening statement. You mentioned how Grodd was never done live action. Technically, he was in a TV show, The Flash Show, if you've ever seen it. He was actually done over there, and he did have his moment to shine over there. Flashpoint's something that we've never seen anywhere at any point in time live action. It's something that completely opens the doors. And like I said earlier, and like you pointed out how it could be complicated. We just saw how complicated Endgame is. I'm going to keep away from spoilers for anybody that's watching this that have not seen that. But let's just say that there are extraordinary possibilities opening up because of that movie alone. This movie right here, if Flashpoint is made, you're talking about it is fixing some of the issues that they're having right now with the whole issue of Ben Affleck leaving as Batman. It is creating new worlds. It's opening so many possibilities. I'm going to stop because I talk a lot, and I'm going to give you a chance to talk before I ruin that again.
But Flashpoint is also kind of moving away from the tone that DC is heading in. DC just had Aquaman and Shazam, which are mildly light and fun movies. Flashpoint is a super serious, dark storyline, whereas with mine, you can introduce Gorilla Grodd and have a lot of fun with that. Especially since we just introduced a spoiler alert for anyone who has not seen Shazam, but I needed to use it in my argument. We just introduced Mr. Mind, who is a talking caterpillar, which means that we can open this world up to the possibility of a giant telekinetic gorilla.
Okay, which I'm not arguing about the fact that Grodd would make a great supervillain. I honestly believe he would make a great supervillain, but I'm looking for like opportunities being shown in a movie that would create like a better future to watch. Watching something like Flashpoint, getting to meet Thomas Wayne, getting to meet like Thomas Wayne as Batman, getting to meet like different versions of different characters. You're not talking about something that is going to go full on, and yeah, it opens up like different worlds, but it's not as complicated as you think, especially since it's been shown that it's been done before. This is something that actually allows us to see different versions of these characters. It allows us to kind of fall in love with different types of characters. It doesn't necessarily have to be dark. The storyline, I mean, Grodd's about a tortured gorilla. He's been tortured when experimented on. It's kind of dark in itself. The way you portray it can come off as less dark. You can have comedy relief. You have a character like Flash, Barry Allen, who is probably one of the biggest comedic relief characters of the Justice League. So there is no dark.
But this is a story where Thomas Wayne as Batman is literally bending his arm and breaking his fingers, saying, "Who are you?" when he has no idea who he is. That's pretty freaking dark.
I'm sorry. Go ahead and show me how many exact alliterations do we see from comic book to movie. There's so many things that can be changed, minor things that can be changed to go ahead and make a better movie, a more enjoyable movie, and maybe something not as dark. I agree. Thomas Wayne characters in exact comics are very, very gruesome, but that's an easy fix. You don't have to have Thomas Wayne being that dark. If they want a more lighthearted movie, they can easily fix that. It's not that difficult at all. Your argument for pushing away the whole Flashpoint thing is something that they don't actually have to follow. People adapt things all the time. They change things based off of what they want to portray multiple times, so many times out there. Look at Infinity War and Endgame. How much was that changed to fit the audience that we, for us?
But that's been building for so many years in so many movies. Doing Flashpoint now would just create a whole mess. And they've been trying to do Flashpoint, and it hasn't been working. Also, with Minister of the Super Gorilla, you can use this to create a new direction for the DC. You can build the Secret League of Supervillains, which could be a really interesting big bad for later on in the series, because that way you're actually building a group of villains that will finally come together and take on the Justice League and have this epic fight, just like an Endgame.
I really don't think we need another Justice League movie anytime soon. So I actually would rather see a different story. I'm just saying I would rather see something completely different, something unique, something that we haven't seen before. Superhero versus a villain is just something that's been done over and over and over before. Show us something different. Show us Flashpoint. Show us something that's unique and has all these different aspects to it that actually can add so much more elements to the movie and actually make it different from all these other movies out there. You bring up how Infinity War and the game's been building for a while. I'm not asking for a super complicated version of Flashpoint. I'm just asking for a generic, hey, this is the Flashpoint movie. Maybe cut some of the stuff out of there and make it an enjoyable and likable movie. And I think it does open up more doors than something like, fighting one single villain in. It actually opens up a new, unique story that is not even close to being shown on theaters before.
But in Flashpoint, there is only one main villain in that as well, and that's Professor Zoom. And it's so late into the storyline of the Flash that it wouldn't make sense to introduce Professor Zoom this way at this point.
Okay, which again, Flashpoint isn't specifically just about the villain, though. It's so much more than that. It's introducing a whole new version of the world. It's showing so much different characters, so many different characters, so many different things, and these aren't things that they have to follow through. If it doesn't play out, guess what? This world is a different world. This is just a way to open the doors and possibilities going forward, and that they can actually travel to in the future if this movie does work out. I think an audience like that we have right now.
All right. Whew. There's a lot of nerdish crap going on, and I don't know what the hell.
Those are the only stuff I know.
I don't know what the heck any of y'all are talking about, but let's hear the gorilla versus Thomas Wayne. Cool. No, I'm just kidding. So we're going to go 60 seconds. Andrew, you're going to start whenever you start speaking.
There are so many characters in Flashpoint that it is, for right now, for where Warner Brothers and DC is now, it makes no sense to introduce that many new characters and add all the characters that we've already seen. With mine, you get a very simple story with a really good villain, and it will introduce different ways to expand the world that the DC is trying to make, while still following in the tone that the last couple of movies have righted the DC universe into, which is where they should start heading, because the way that they were going before tonally was not working for them. And I yield the rest of my time.
Impressive. We'll see how it works out. Ruben. 60 seconds whenever you start talking.
Okay, if we're talking about simplicity, there's so many DCE movies that have been out there that pretty much have been just, one hero, one villain fighting each other, with the exception of Justice League. It's pretty much the same thing over and over. We have to have different types of movies out there. We have to have stuff made for different types of audience. Something like Flashpoint, while you speak about having multiple different characters, this actually is a story, a really, really good story that brings so many different elements and more emotional connections to. I would pay so much money to see that relationship between Thomas Wayne and Bruce Wayne from different worlds connecting over just a simple letter. There's so much stuff there that can be shown in this movie. And then you talk about like the different characters they can interact with, the different storylines, the doors that are open. There's so much to see with this movie, and I would pay so much money to bring this movie to life because it's a movie that Warner Brothers needs that differs from the rest of their movies out there right now. Time.
Awesome. Fantastic. I don't have to go first. This is amazing. Sean, you do.
Oh, damn it.
Have fun.
I was like, please don't
Thank
put me first.
God. Thank God.
I mean, great match back and forth.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone had counters for everything for the most part. I was back and forth the whole way through. The big thing that comes to me is the one main point that Andrew did state. With Ruben, you did say, it worked with Endgame. But the big thing that Andrew said, it worked with Endgame because he had plenty of movies to introduce the characters, build their stories. So that way Endgame worked because we had all that time to work with them. Whereas with Flashpoint, like you said, it's too many characters to put into one film, too many things to go on. It'll be just like he said earlier, a Frankenstein monster. And with that, I have to give Andrew the point. Because outside the beginning of the argument, there wasn't a whole lot of attack on Gorilla Grodd. It was a lot of just going Flashpoint the entire time. So there's not enough of attack of Gorilla Grodd to basically go. And the simple story, like you said, with simple villains, with going with the path of where DC is kind of where I thought it would go. So I'm giving Andrew the point.
Okay. Matt, you're going next. What do you think?
I'm glad Sean brought up the whole Endgame thing, because when that was brought up, my first thought was, well, Marvel and the MCU had 22 films to get to it. And Flashpoint is one of those that you have to understand what's going on with these characters deep enough. And when the DCEU, DC World, whatever you want to call it, changed course with Aquaman, it kind of got away from the dark tones because Thomas Wayne is out killing people. And it wasn't brought up, but Martha Wayne has become the Joker. And it would be too in-depth for now. And Grodd, it would be more of a simpler back and forth like we had with Shazam, like we had with Aquaman. So, yeah, my point goes with Andrew as well.
So, third question. Again, this is make or break, but, we've seen anything happen. It's best Kirk Douglas performance. And we're going to start with Andrew, and then you'll close this question out. So go ahead and tell us what it is.
Kirk Douglas is an icon in the world of cinema. He has plenty of roles that we could have picked. One of them is one I think a lot of people are expecting to be one of our choices, being Spartacus. However, my problem with Kirk Douglas is while he can be a very great actor, sometimes he can have a tendency to really overdo it. And there's one movie that I've seen him in where I don't see that at all, and that is Stanley Kubrick's Paths of Glory. In this movie, he plays Colonel Dax, a man who has to deal with a lot of inner turmoil in his own battalion, and as well as the higher ups trying to take more control than they really are supposed to be having. And this is a movie where he is not overdoing it like I see in other movies. And I'm going to yield my time before I start rambling and just make my main argument later.
Ruben, unless you want to extend it, speak whenever you want to.
Okay, so when I'm looking for Kirk Douglas best performance, I'm looking for all around, like something that is more than just one dimensional, something that kind of like shows different versions of his character, something that shows like his talents being shown, because he is one of the best of the best. And the first movie that comes to mind is Champion, and the reason why I chose Champion is because it's a movie that actually shows a kind of villainous character as the leading role, where it's pretty much somewhere where he's kind of put in a position to where, or like he's the main character and everybody's watching him. And he's trying to get, the people watching at home, the audience, to enjoy and watch the movie and stuff. But at the same time, he's a complete dick, and he's still kind of weighing people over, trying to get people to be a likable character through his performance. To show that much of a dimensional character to where you like and hate someone at the same time is something that I automatically applaud. And just kind of looking at the movie as a whole, I feel like his performance kind of like excels way over anybody else in that movie. I'm going to yield the rest of my time because most of my stuff is pretty much debating.
Yeah, fantastic. Again, you're probably making Matt Beer smile really big. I can see all your times, guys, to be honest with you. Okay, 5 minutes, free form. All right, make or break. Let's go.
All right, I'm going to start with this. Are there moments in Champion where Kirk Douglas shows his acting talents? Absolutely. But that's maybe 1/3 of the movie. The other 2/3 of the time, it's kind of hammy. And, like, especially in his death scene. Like, I did not believe anything that was happening in that death scene. It was the traditional, did you see what I did? I'm champion.
I gotta completely disagree with you because I didn't feel that at all. I actually felt like an emotional attachment to a character that I was supposed to dislike, the character that I was supposed to like and hate, but at the same time, and his emotion there is actually still feel for this character, even though he was pretty much a villain and a dick throughout the entire movie. And he wants to be traditional. We go back to his character in Paths of Glory. Honestly, I felt like his character in that movie was very one-dimensional. I've seen his character portrayed multiple times in multiple different movies. From that point on, constantly going through all these movies, the exact same type of character and persona portrayed multiple times, and it was very one-dimensional for me. Whereas Champion was something that I haven't seen before. I went and watched this movie because I've never seen a Kirk Douglas film. I went and watched this and went and watched Paths of Glory. And when I see that movie is something that shows so much dimension to his character, and it actually kind of explores different takes on the movie itself. And I actually fell in love with his acting experience just in that movie alone, just to actually show how much of a villain he was and still be likable.
Okay. I totally disagree with you on him being one-dimensional. That courtroom scene right at the end where he's going off on how the entire trial is a sham, this is a guy that has been a lawyer, so he has seen everything when it comes to the courts. He's probably done many trials in the military, so he knows what's wrong, and he is frustrated because not only does he know that he's right, but that these men who are basically just put up there as pawns are going to be killed, and he is struggling with the fact that everything that he knows should be happening is not. So I doubt that's one-dimensional.
It's actually funny you bring that up. You just listed off one specific moment when you were just telling me about how there's moments in Champions where he's actually his acting skills are shown to Barr. Whereas if we look at that, like that's the only movie where I actually fine. I'll give you that one moment. That moment I actually did enjoy, and I felt like it hit home. As far as the rest of the movie, like again, it just felt very one-dimensional for me. It felt like it was just the same thing that I've seen multiple times. And again, this is an earlier film, but it's something that has been done the exact same way multiple times, and it's repetitive. And I'm not saying he's a horrible actor. I'm just saying that specific movie didn't do him justice, in my opinion.
I'm going to disagree with you again because throughout that entire movie, this is Kirk Douglas focused. Stanley Kubrick is actually working with him, and he's using Kirk Douglas's strengths. Kirk Douglas is best when he's stoic, but there's also a sense of panic in him because he's in war. And the moment where they charge the anthill, you can tell that he is stressed about the situation because he knows that their entire situation, it's not going to work. And when he comes back, he is stressed. He is sweating. He is angry that no one is coming with him. And he is, I know that's just one moment, but there are other moments where he is pondering on what to do. There are moments where he's showing kindness to the three men who are basically being sacrificed. To say that it's one-dimensional is wrong. Whereas with Champion, a majority of it is him trying to be another actor. He's trying to be either Cary Grant or Gary Cooper. When he's being charming, he's being that suave. He's being that suave man trying to hit it with the ladies. There's also Arthur Kennedy and Paul Stewart are acting circles around him. They are the best actors in that movie.
Okay, let me disagree with you right there, because I actually everything about Champion, when I look at Kirk Douglas, I'm seeing so many different personas put in front of us, and seeing so many such a good performance from him, to where I'm seeing him actually come out of his shell. Yeah, it's not like the movie that he's like he normally likes to do, but seeing him kind of be this like charismatic, like dick, horrible character, while still being a character that kind of makes it enjoyable to watch him, and even all the way up to the death scene. This is a guy that you're supposed to hate. This is a guy that raped someone. This is someone that actually, like, constantly throughout the film was like a horrible character overall, and he actually, like, he made me actually enjoy his character. Like, I was rooting for him. Even when he's dying, I was still rooting for him.
But the scene where he's leaving Grace is one of the most...
Time.
Perfect timing. Just right before saying it. By the way, whoever's in charge of editing, please get a GIF of Andrew doing those impressions of being suave. I think we can pop it on every group chat moving forward.
Also him doing the movements with Food Fight.
Yeah, I think it's quite.
I think the
quite good, and
Oscar
that's
goes to
comedic
him
gold,
for this
guys.
round.
So make sure that happens. So you guys still have an extension, but you still have you got 1 minute. So we're gonna start with Ruben here. Close it out.
Okay, so again, not to sound like a broken record, but whenever I'm looking for best performance for someone, I'm looking for something that isn't one-dimensional. I'm looking for something that kind of showcases different types throughout the movie. Letting me like and what Kirk Douglas does in The Champion, he makes me like him, he makes me hate him, he makes me like him, he makes me hate him, and he does it so well that even when he does some of the most heinous, like horrible things, at the end of the movie, when he is dying, I feel for him. I am rooting for him to somehow survive, even though he's a horrible human being. This guy's performance in that movie made me change my mind based off of what he did throughout the movie. And I think it's his strongest performance. It's something that's not one-dimensional. It's something that he's not just, doing the same type of character that I've seen portrayed multiple times. It's something different, and it's something unique, and it's something that actually showcases what a talented individual Kirk Douglas is. I'm going to yield my time.
Matt, they're being super nice to you tonight. Andrew, 1 minute.
I'm going to use my extension.
Okay. Extension to close it out. 2 minutes. Whenever you start speaking.
I think you're confusing one-dimensional with a character wrestling with his internal emotions and trying not to show weakness. That's what Kirk Douglas is doing the entire time in this movie. But you can still see in his eyes the fear, the anger, the sorrow, and the love that he's trying to show to these men that have put up as sacrifices in his eyes and in his performances. The scene where he's essentially blackmailing one of the higher ups is so great because of his performance. He is giving so much, and he's doing it with control and restraint, which he does not do in Champion. Plus, I think that that half of your argument has been character versus performance. And even if it wasn't, I have seen multiple characters that are terrible characters that we still end up rooting for done better. Travis Bickle in Taxi Driver is not a person that we should be rooting for, but we do. And he is a much better performance than what Kirk Douglas gives in Champion. Plus, I've seen that kind of performance in boxing movies before. So if you look at what has come after, they have given better performances in a very similar role. And I yield the rest of my time.
Very impressive. Very impressive. This was a lot closer on paper. Not the choices that I would have went with. Maybe one, but interesting. But guess what? I don't have to decide this one right away. Matt, it's your turn. Hello. Enjoy.
Oh, shit. I was hoping you weren't going to say that because I've been sitting here taking notes the whole time, and I actually had to start erasing stuff to take more notes. Oh. First, you guys both, these were extremely compelling arguments. Andrew, I like the fact that you brought up the different scenes that he's struggling in. And Ruben, you started explaining the different stages of throughout the movie. He goes from being somebody you like to somebody you don't, to somebody you do, to somebody you don't. Oh, so I think I'm going to go Ruben just because I am so torn. It's not even funny.
All right. So I will take the bullet.
So Ruben gets my point.
Yeah. So I will take the next bullet. So as a fighter, I respect when you put somebody on the defensive. And Ruben I think Andrew might have the strongest closing I've seen in the last 6 months in Battleground. It's insane his close because he did a great job. But I think it's a little too late. For the simple fact is, Ruben implied the Caleb Coho strategy, which is piss off your opponent and make them fight your fight. And Ruben did it to a T. It could have been calling his mother, his grandmother, his father, whatever it was, and he was so insulted that you said it was one dimension. That all he focused on was that he did a good job trying to counteract it, but every time it came back, as you brought it up, it pissed him off more and more. And if he would have brought the stuff that he did in the closing, because I don't give as much closing, like points wise, because for the simple fact that you can do low blows and you can do stuff that you sneak stuff in at the end. I like to hear it in the main rounds, and that's just me as a judge. But I think that was brilliant by Ruben. It was make or break. I think on paper, Paz of Glory is the clear-cut winner, but I think Ruben fought for his life in that fight, and I have to give him the edge on that point just to make it. And I like knockouts better than anything, so I was hoping for, to be honest, I was hoping for a knockout. But good job. Ruben gets the point. So it's going to be speed round. So speed round question is going to work like this. They've kind of changed the rules since the last time I kind of debated, and we're going to read the question twice so everybody hears it. So if there's any connection issues, you have 2 chances to hear it. If you still don't hear it, I'm sorry. Don't cry. But you will have whoever I hear first, and I'm going to use the judges as my other ears too, so pay attention, judges. So if we can all kind of agree who we heard first. All right. First question. Best 90s action film. Best 90s action film.
Andrew.
Okay.
That was
Point
weird.
Break.
Okay.
Bad Boys. Was that made in the 90s?
Yeah.
That's 100% made in the 90s.
Hey! All right, let's go.
All right, so Andrew, we heard you first, so you will go first. 30 seconds whenever you start speaking.
When you go to see an action film, you want something that's a lot of fun, that's very quotable, and it's got really well-shot action. That is something that Point Break has a lot of. You got very likable characters, a really well-made script, and a lot of really well-shot action scenes. Did I hear time?
No, you're still going.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I heard time. Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze, their charisma in this movie are just enigmatic, and the action is so well shot that you can.
Time.
Okay, Ruben, 30 seconds whenever you start speaking.
Okay, so there's a couple big things that I'm looking for in a really good action movie. Explosions, there has to be a lot of explosions. There has to be a lot of stuff going on, and actually good relationship in terms of the stars. I'm sorry, Martin Lawrence and Will Smith are two of the best action stars out there. And whenever I saw them in a movie together, it was to die for. These guys together actually made it a comedy action movie. And I feel like every action movie needs some comedy in it to actually add to the movie itself. These two together made a badass movie, and it's the reason why it's getting a third movie recently.
Okay, 15 seconds, Andrew, whenever you start speaking.
The way the action is shot in Point Break is easier to watch, and it's easier to follow what's going on. It's not the same with Bad Boys. The script for Bad Boys is fine. It's not great. And Bad Boys 2 is a better movie than Bad Boys.
Time, I guess. He conceded.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. I mean, now he's up, yeah.
Yeah. Ruben, 15 seconds whenever you start talking.
Last I checked, we're not looking at which movie has a better sequel. We're looking at something that is fun to watch now. Bad Boys was a movie that was you're on the edge of your seat, you're enjoying watching, you don't care how it's filmed. It's something that you were on the edge of your seat throughout the entire movie, and these two characters, front and center, were a blast to watch, and that's something.
Time.
Those
Right.
go really fast.
Just because I don't want to do this, I'm going to let Sean go first. Sean.
I had no idea.
Why do you always put me in the hard part?
Because you're wearing a Cowboys hat, so okay.
You didn't start with the last question.
So basically, you want greatness to answer first. I understand that. Thank you.
Yes.
I think based off of the two things, and yes, while Andrew, Bad Boys 2 is better, Ruben did counter back with the sequels don't matter. It all matters about this one movie. The way Ruben definitely was a lot more passionate about Point Break in a short lot of time. Basically saying that he likes the comedy action. He thinks everyone should have it. He thinks Will Smith and Martin Lawrence have had a lot of chemistry together. So because of that, I will have to go with Bad Boys for the point.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna do it. Matt, go ahead. Decide.
Oh, gee, thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah, love you too, Cody. See, I'm on the opposite side of the fence. I think Andrew came out with his first round, the first part, and said, "Look, it's got better action, it's better set up." The way he described the way that the movie was set up was it. But I do have to admit, though, that comeback of sequels don't matter definitely did help in Ruben. But Andrew gets the point.
You bastard. Okay.
Yes, I am.
So basically where it breaks down for me is I think the opening was stronger for one. I think the closing was stronger for the other. And I will have to give my point to Andrew. So Andrew winner. Andrew Barr. Again, fantastic fought. I could have went either way for me. I think Ruben should not be hard on himself on debate. I think he's a lot better than what he claims to be. I can't wait to see him in like a geek debate because that's maybe the most terrifying thing possible because he's got a lot of passion for it. But yeah, that's how it's decided. I'm going to go to our winner today, Andrew. Andrew, how are you feeling? Did you think this is how the outcome was going to go? Do you have any rulings that you think were wrong? By the way, Speed came out of the 90s, and that's the correct answer, just to let everybody know. Go ahead.
I'm not fast. I'm
no,
not good
it's
at
not.
thinking on mine.
That's a good choice. No, this was exactly what I was hoping it would be. This matches everything that I was hoping it would be. Ruben is a really fierce competitor. My hat's off to you, Ruben. You gave a really good fight, and that's exactly what I wanted. Thank you so much for being as strong of a competitor as you are. I'm happy to have the win. But I'm just more happy to have won it in a fight as good as this one.
Yeah. Awesome. We'll go to Ruben next. Ruben, didn't go your way today. Did you? I guess you kind of had a little thought that this might happen because you're not really great at general, but I think you still fought and you can bullshit with the best of them. Clearly, Kirk Douglas is your favorite actor after that fight because you made me believe it. So how do you feel it went? Are you a little bummed? Do you want to get back in there? Just let us know how you're feeling.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to do regular movie trivia. It's just I'm a trivia, sorry. Regular movie. I don't even know the name of. Sorry, Battlegrounds. Just because I'm not really familiar with a lot of the movies, as I clearly admitted in the Kirk Douglas round. I guess I'm just a good talker. But like I said, I was come to win. The only thing I take away from this is that I am kind of like heartbroken, beat up that I lost my Flashpoint because Flashpoint's one of my favorite comic books. So I am a little bit heartbroken that I lost that debate. But other than that, I did a lot better than I thought I was going to do. I thought I was going to walk away with 1 point, which I did, but wasn't the point I thought I was going to walk away with. But I will say that it was fun, but maybe just for me, just so I can actually know what I'm talking about, maybe I should probably just stick over to like kind of the fandom nerdgasm talks, because at least I know my comics, I know my anime, I know all my stuff over there, whereas I don't really know the stuff over here. But it was a fun fight. Judges, thank you for being here, guys. Sorry I bullshit 20 or 75% of the time, but it was
That was great.
it was fun to do. So thanks, guys.
Again, it made me, as somebody that's debated a lot in this league, smile, because I'm like, well, I thought you watched the champion, because by my definition you did. But we'll go to Sean first. Sean, how do you think this match went overall? And yeah, basically that.
Yeah, I mean, for Ruben not being good at, like I said, general, I mean, like I said, you did put some good arguments going, and like you said you bullshit 75% of the time, but if you remember from Thank You from Smoking, it's not about how right you are, it's how well you argue. So I thought you did a solid job. You definitely made Andrew, like Doug said, you made him angry and you made him come out like in your arguments. Like you kept pushing his buttons through the fight. So I mean, you did a good job. I mean, you did what you were supposed to. It just didn't come your way this time. But yeah, I thought it was a good fight overall.
And Matt, how'd you think overall it went? And yeah.
Well, first off, you guys, this was an awesome back and forth. Sometimes it might have been a little one-sided, but you know what, Ruben, I have to give you credit. I completely thought you knew both of those movies, and you had me believing. I was so torn the whole time, and like I said, when I gave my ruling, this was a flip of a coin. I do again apologize. I was looking at my board when I brought up that topic during the Flashpoint one. Again, I have to apologize for that. I was looking at my board, reading off my notes, and I made a mental note to myself, and I said it out loud. So I do have to apologize to you again, Ruben. But if you fight like this when you're bullshitting 75% of the time, I cannot wait to judge one of your matches where you know what you're talking about. And Andrew, you and I talked about it before the match. You know your stuff. So both of you guys do not hang your heads. I cannot wait to see where you guys go in these leagues. And glad I stayed up and decided to keep in this. I mean, I was asked to judge last minute. I'm glad I did.
Yeah, it was an awesome match overall. I don't know if we do plugs here. I have no idea what we do anymore. But if we have plugs, let's just do plugs. And if they edit it out, they edit it out. So, Andrew, you're our winner. Please tell us where the good folks of the internet world can find you.
Well, you still can't find me on Instagram, and you still can't find me on Twitter, but you can find me on Facebook under Andrew James Barr. If you really want to talk to me, you can also find me on Letterboxd under Andrew Barr, one word, the A and the B of first name capitalized.
Ooh, make sure you put the caps lock on during that, or shift for not the teenagers that use their smartphones. We'll go to Ruben, unfortunate loser, but where can the good people find you?
So I'm kind of on the same boat as Andrew. I don't really use social media that much except for Facebook. So that's pretty much the only place you guys can really find me. Ruben Colon, Facebook, search me up, hit me up.
Awesome. Sean, where can the good people find you?
Yeah, obviously you guys see behind me, I do Sean's Movie Crusades on YouTube, where I review movies and do other things movie-wise. You can find me, like I said, on YouTube there. You can also find me on Instagram and Facebook at Sean's Movie Crusades, and Letterboxd and Twitter at S Movie Crusades, and that is Crusades with a Z in the middle, not an S.
I think I'm more impressed that you have your own marketing behind you. That's very impressive. I would just point to it every time, just be like, That's
right.
it. But that's
Yeah,
cool.
just there.
As long as you would get a better hat at some point. Matt, where can
Never
people
gonna happen.
find you?
Never gonna happen.
You can find me on Facebook. That's pretty much where I'm at Matt Graham. You can find myself and my DJing partner at DJ Carmageddon on. You can find us on SoundCloud and Mixcloud. You can find my DJing page at KT Virus, all one word. There's a dash between the K and or the T and the virus. Yeah.
Awesome. And you can pretty much find me everywhere in this trivia sphere. I'm on Multiplex, I'm on Full Metal, I'm on Take 3 Productions. I have a show on Multiplex Entertainment called Your List Sucks. Believe me, I have a big opinion on everybody, and I think most of the people's list sucks. So if you possibly want to be on it, do a comment. I'm releasing my next 4 probably after this video drops. So be looking on Multiplex. I'm going to try to get new blood in there this time, so this is going to be a fun time. So just comment below. And yeah, so bye. I don't know how you end this video. Like, comment, subscribe. You know what to do. Peace.